Kristy, looking back on your childhood, how would you have described your behaviour?
I think I was quite strong-willed, I've been told. And I remember in my early years getting in trouble a lot and refusing to do things till the last second and putting my hands on my hips and stuff. So I just think in the early years I was definitely a little bit of a brat.
So what do you attribute that to?
I think it would be hard to say that, I just intentionally did that. I think I was born with the tendency to be strong-willed. And I think it just, as it flourished and grew, it just got worse. And I think it definitely took some intervention.
So what are some of the things that you remember doing that would have proved you were a strong-willed child?
Like I said, the hands on the hip thing, I slammed many a door. I stomped my feet. I refused to do things until the very last second. And I was given the 5-second rule, which I think, looking back, probably gave me 5 more chances to be misbehaving.
So that didn't work for you?
No. So I would say, if you have a strong-willed child, don't give them time to misbehave again. I would just give them the punishment straight away.
Do you have any recollection that you knew that what you were doing was wrong, but you did it anyway?
I think as I got older I did, but I think in my early years, no, I didn't. I don't remember thinking to myself, oh, I'm going to be strong-willed and I know exactly what I'm doing. I think at first it was just kind of, like I said, a thing you're born with, and then after a while you realise you're getting away with it, or not getting away with it, and then you realise it's a behavioural thing. And looking back now, hindsight 2020, I realise, yeah, I was very much trying to control the situation.
Mm-hmm. So what changed you then?
I think a number of things. Obviously, you guys, a few spankings, and definitely consequences. I think the spanking became less of the problem for me. It was the least I was afraid of. I think it was more well, you're not getting a birthday this year then. That's enough to scare a kid out of not doing it again. But and I definitely think that becoming a Christian at an early age too definitely changed my whole thinking about everything. I definitely became a more peaceful child, and I think it definitely combined though with a lot of discipline, and I know it took you guys a lot of time and energy, and I'm sure it gave you headaches trying to get me to behave properly, but it worked.
Now, Kristy, there's probably quite a few people in the audience who have strong-willed children. So what would your advice be to them? What would you recommend?
I think be patient. Definitely be patient, because I think the more frustrated you get, the more the child senses that and maybe even tries to manipulate that. But definitely be patient. Be consistent. I think that was the biggest thing for me, was that if my parents said, if you do that one more time, this is going to happen, it wasn't, well, it happened one more time and then they forgot about it. They definitely followed through on every single punishment, and I knew that I wasn't going to get away with anything. And my earliest recollection was when I asked Mum if I could do something, and she said no. So I went to Dad instead, and Dad said, well, okay. And then my parents found out that I played them off each other. And boy, that was the last time I did that, because that was not good. But yeah.
So you mentioned consistency.
Yes.
Very important.
Very important. And it's not even so much the how you discipline, it's that you discipline and follow through with what you say you're going to do. And don't let a child run the household, because they will if you let them. And
would you have?
I would have, if you guys hadn't have disciplined me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I was a bossy pants.
Was structure important?
Yes, very important. And I mean, growing up, I think we had almost a lack of structure, in the sense that the careers that you guys had, and the moving around, and I went to 7 different schools growing up, that kind of lack of structure I don't think affected me that much, because my parents were so consistent. And so I kind of got used to that, and actually have appreciated that now, because I love change now, and I love to move around and do different things, and I don't think that lack of traditional family structure that I think you're talking about, really, I don't think I missed it.
Appreciate that. But Kristy, finally, what positive things about strong-willed children or strong-willed behaviour do parents need to know?
That if you allow it, it'll get negative. And I think if you can harness it and make it a positive thing, it'll keep your children out of trouble. Because I remember as a child, it got me in trouble a lot because I was directing it in a negative way, and I was getting in trouble a lot. And I think my parents saw that, and they thought, well, I know they read some books on it, and thank goodness, because they managed to turn it around and direct it in a positive way. And I actually, once I made up my mind that I wasn't going to do something, or that I was going to do something, it took a lot to change that. And so as a child, I remember saying to myself, I'm not going to be somebody with a filthy mouth, for instance. I'm not going to swear, I'm not going to say rude or unkind things to people. And once I made that up in my mind, you really couldn't change that. And I became the kid at school that was known for not swearing. And that was just one example, but I also made up my mind that I was going to remain pure until I got married. And no one was going to change that. And I definitely had a lot of instances where people tried to tempt me, and I said no. And that strong will really kicked in. And because I was able to direct it in a positive way, I think it saved me a lot of hassle.